Hey guys, welcome back to Algorithms Explained. My name is David, and today we're going to go over another algorithm question from Edabit. This is an easy level question that's going to be working with strings. But before we get into it, if you are landing here through the YouTube page, go ahead and go to the link in the description and try out the question. I think that once you try it out, if you can solve it yourself within a reasonable amount of time, then you don't even need to come back to this video. But if you can't, and then this video will give you some value because we go over the question itself. If not, the other links in the description is to sign up for an account on Edabit. If you go and become a pro member, it will help out the channel, help me out. And yeah, thanks for watching. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the question. This one is called return something to me. Write a function that returns the string something joined with a space, and there's an actual space there, which is like that, and the given argument a. All right, give me something. That's the function name, and so that is on the outline of kind of our code. That is going to be what our function name is. Looks like it's going to take one argument, which looking here, we gave that parameter the parameter name a, and what we want to return is something, space, and whatever that parameter was. In this case, we threw in is better than nothing as the string, so that parameter takes a string, or this function takes a string, the parameter defined by a, and that string is better than nothing. And so we return something, space, is better than nothing, because is better than nothing was part of this. Also, another example, the argument, or whatever was passed in was Bob Jane. This is also another string, something space Bob Jane. So doesn't need to make sense. Give me something, and we're gonna have something space something. And so before you start off with this question, and I highly recommend this for interview situations as well. Do you know, actually, well, I like to make a plan of kind of what we're going to do, because I know sometimes in the past, especially the first interview I had with Google, I don't work with Google right now, but that was like one of the first big tech companies that I interviewed with, and it was daunting. And when they gave me a question, I thought, you know what? I think I kind of know the picture of kind of where I'm going to go with this, and I'll start coding, and then I'll figure it out later, because I was just so scared about running out of time. But really, if I think you would actually want to run out of time versus start going in a tangent, because those interviewers are not going to stop you. Like if you start moving in a direction and it's completely wrong, quite frankly, they're not going to say, hey, you know what, that was wrong. You should never have done that, and you pretty much just failed that interview, or that one interview of the multiple that you probably have for that day. And so what is a good way to tackle this and kind of understand what we want to do? Well, first of all, do you understand the inputs, and do you understand the outputs? That's number one. Inputs is going to be a string, output is going to be another string, and the function itself is going to manipulate that string and return a string. So input is a string, your parameters. Sometimes you could have multiple parameters. In this case, we're going to have one parameter, and the output is going to be one string, which is going to make use of that parameter. Most likely, you will always make use of the parameter. Sometimes it's not going to come out like it is coming out here. In our case, we're going to add a string to the parameter itself, and so we're going to very clearly see the parameter as an output and how we used it. But sometimes you want to just take that input and use it to create more information and make the output. Important thing is, do you know your input? Do you know your output? And the thing is, if you know those two, then you have to kind of figure out, okay, how do I go from input to, how do I go from taking my input and outputting what I need to output? And so what we're going to do, we're working with strings here, and we're going to be coding this in JavaScript. We can do multiple languages, but I like to do JavaScript. We're going to take a string, and we're going to output a string. And in JavaScript, it's very easy. You can just do the plus, string plus string, and that can be your output. And so, sorry for all the coughing. I'm healthy. you want to, so we're going to take the input and we're going to output a string. So that's pretty easy. How do we want to manipulate it? That how is going to be kind of what we got to figure out in terms of, or by reading the directions of the question, by asking the interviewer clarification questions. And also, while you're doing that, something that's not going to directly affect your output, but something that is very good to ask the interviewer is always going to be asking about different types of inputs that can be given to the question. Right here in the notes, it says assume an input is given. So perhaps you would have asked, what if I don't get an input? Then the interviewer might say, okay, then we still want you to output something space. Like we still want you to output a string. In this case, they're just guaranteeing us that assume an input is given. What if an input is a number? What if it's not a string? Because then that might change the way different coding languages handle this problem. In our case, actually, let's go ahead and look at the test. This is a good way to know kind of, are they going to throw a curveball at us? So this test.asserts equals takes in the pretty much the function, what we're going to run. And it and this second parameter of this assert equal, so this is actually a function as well. You see how it says test.assert equals and then it has parentheses? Well, within these parentheses are two arguments, and it pretty much runs this, which is going to be running pretty much our code, and then see if it equals this, and this is the right answer. And so it looks like the only test that we're going to be given is the letter A is cooking and space is cooking. Actually, let's take a look at this last one because they want us to return something space and then whatever they gave us in the parameter. And in this parameter, they actually gave us a space already. So you might ask, okay, if you gave us a space, do we want to add two spaces? That's a legitimate answer or a legitimate question. And it looks like in this case, there are two spaces. And I think that's emphasized by this second and third test being exactly the same, except this one is, we're given the argument that has a space in it already, and we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so we have our input, which is going to be a string. We have our output, which is going to be something space, and then make use of that string. We're going to attach it together. And how are we going to do that? Well, when we want to take a string and create a bigger string, in this case, we can just use the plus sign and output that, and that's going to be very easy for us. So let's go ahead and get to the code. And A, that's going to be our parameter name. Very bad parameter name. In terms of interview, don't ever do that. Even like at the very least, do string like str or something like that. Let's see. Okay, they say that we're given the argument A, which is why that's the argument. But let's go ahead and do string because we want to use slightly better names. All right, or yeah, argument names. And so what we can do is we can do like create a variable, let result equals, what are we gonna do? Something space, right? Something space and then our argument. And so we can do something space and then plus our argument str. And then we can return result. And so let's go ahead and try this out. What we did right here is we created a variable and we're going to return that variable, and pretty much this is our answer. We did exactly what they wanted us to do, something space and then whatever argument they gave us. And so if the argument they gave us is an A, we're going to be returning something space A, as depicted in kind of what they expect from us here. This portion of it comes from this something space, and the A comes from the argument. So let's go ahead and check this out. It should work. And then we're going to get rid of the variable because we technically don't have to create a variable. We could just return this portion of it right away. All right, there we go. And so this is very hard to see, but there's actually two spaces there as expected, which is why the test has passed. And so how do we do this without making use of a variable? Because sometimes you don't have to. Let's go ahead and just straight up return this. without saving it as a variable. Return something, space string. And when we check our finals, if it works out, then it's going to work out. Okay, cool. So that was the question there. Hopefully you enjoyed it and hopefully this helped you out. Again, if you came over here just through YouTube algorithm and you haven't tried out the problem yet, go ahead and at this point, maybe you already finished watching it, but go ahead and go to the link in the description. That's where the problem is, and make yourself an account if you don't have one already. And Edabit, the platform, the first 15 questions are free, and you don't have to, you're not limited by the difficulty. So you can use all 15 questions as very easy ones, or you can go straight from the easy ones to the hardest ones they have. It doesn't matter. You can do all 15 at the very hardest level. Yeah, hopefully this video was helpful to you. If it was, please consider giving it a like. Please consider subscribing. And if you are a subscribed member, thank you for coming back and watching another video. I hope you have a good one. Bye.